we
Yep.
on?
Yep, we're recording.
Okay. All right. So let's start off. First thing we want to do is approve the minutes from the September 8th meeting. Has everybody reviewed those? Can I get a motion?
I'll make
So
a motion.
moved.
Chris, can we get a second?
Second.
Excellent. Thank you all. Those minutes are approved. The next step or the next discussion will be on the goals once again. So those are all approved and moving forward based on the last SWDB meeting that we had. We do want to discuss a couple of things with those. I think the first thing is it's really great to have goals, but we have to have ways to make sure that these are kind of pioneered through the process of going from goal to completion or as close to completion as we can get them. So we need champions in each position. We've talked about different committees and ways of doing things. So we wanted to discuss the committee structure with everybody here to get input on how everybody feels that we should be doing that going forward. So I guess I'll kind of pop this to Drake and Sabina and just, do you want to pull up the goals that are there and start having discussions on how we properly pull these through?
Sure. So Jay, do you think it's most helpful to share the goals document?
Yeah, that's what I would
Okay.
do, and then we can kind of just go through each one.
Mm-hmm. All right, it just might take me 1 minute to pull it up. But for a little bit of context, I think, oh, sorry, Sabina, I hear.
Oh, I was just going to say, I can pull it up for you while
Oh.
you're chatting. Yeah.
That'd be great. Thank you very
Okay.
much. I think, Chris, you weren't at the last full board meeting, but we had a really good discussion about finalizing that initial list of goals that the executive committee has spent a number of meetings on, and so we're able to accomplish that. And then we started to have a conversation about a potential committee structure, or even just an initial committee structure to support, progress on those goals. But there wasn't enough time in the full board meeting to really take action at that point. So when we spoke last with Jay, thought that this would be a good conversation to have with the executive committee, over the next meeting or so that by the time we're ready to convene the full board again in November, we have some recommendations or some proposals to share with the full board. And one of the next steps from the full board meeting, which I've been working on over the past week, is to create a Microsoft form to send out to the board that would enable board members to indicate their interest in working on one or more of the goals that were approved by the board. So want to get that out in the next couple of days, but wanted to run that plan by y'all before we send it out to the full group. And then the last thing I'll say before stopping talking for now is one thing we discussed at the full board meeting is, these are the goals that the board has identified as wanting to work on initially, but there are also other functions and responsibilities that the board has that also, could benefit from some dedicated committee structure. So the other workflows that we discussed were around some type of an operations or program quality committee that could be really focused on the board's WIOA responsibilities, and that would probably be wise to be its own committee. And then we also discussed at the last board meeting the federal workforce Pell program that the board is going to have responsibilities in implementing. That's supposed to be starting next year, and that maybe not a committee, but a task force that's focused on workforce Pell could also be a helpful, subgroup of the board that could at some point, be folded into another committee. And then we also have the two standing committees, or the two existing committees of the board right now is this committee, the executive committee, and a pretty established healthcare workforce development committee, which has been meeting for a number of years. So that's sort of where we left things, but definitely want to create some space for this group to discuss some potential strategies or recommendations for how the board moves forward on accomplishing and making progress on these goals. Jay, let me know if there's anything I missed there.
Quick
No, that's perfect.
for WIOA,
You might want to look at who was, because they had a similar committee in the past, the last two iterations, and it might include some board members now, but it might also include some folks you might want to bring into the fold for that committee if the charter for this group will allow for that.
Yes,
At least
and Chris,
you'll
thank
have
you.
some.
Yeah, that's the thing I forgot to mention, which is that we, and in speaking with Jay and the rest of the board, think that they're, board members, obviously we want to support a committee structure where board members can participate on committees, but I think having non-board members participate on committees is definitely important as well.
Sure.
And in the form that we're going to be sending out to the group, there's a question that folks can indicate who they think, we can look back at previous committees of the board and previous folks who've been involved in these conversations, but also want to be surveying this board about which non-board members folks think could contribute to the work of committees. And then the other thing we've been talking about, and Kendall, I seen your hand up, so sorry to keep chatting for just one more moment, but I don't want to forget to say, the other thing that we've talked about with Jay as well is potentially identifying some existing state committees or boards that state workforce development board members could sit on or join in an effort not to duplicate work that's already happening. So there's kind of like a lot of different things happening here, but we just want to make sure that the structure that y'all are going to be establishing is as additive as possible. So thank you, Chris, for mentioning that.
Yeah, and real quick, just to add on to that, Kendall, I apologize. One second is I just met with the governor a week and a half ago, and I think we're very aligned in the fact that the different boards have to work together, different departments have to work together to really accomplish, the goals and kind of getting over the hurdles that Vermont's facing right now. So that's kind of the standpoint in the direction in which, Drake is talking about, having different groups, different representation from different groups and different committees and different boards kind of represented across the full spectrum. So I think that's something that's very important and needed at this point as well. Sorry, Kendall, go ahead.
The one thing I just wanted to talk through aloud with you all to make sure I have it clear in my own mind, and I apologize, this might be a factor of me being late to the last full board meeting, is the way the goals are framed around developing targets or identifying CTE programs or just increasing graduates staying in Vermont. Are we framing them this way because the board as a volunteer organization isn't going to actually implement? And what I'm getting at is whether or not, I guess these read a little bit operational to me. So are we saying we've accomplished our goal once we've developed recruiting targets? Done? Or is it the real work beginning once we have those targets around coordinating how those are happening? So for example, if I sat down in front of Allison and Mike and their committees and I was like, my goal is to have a plan. Like your committees would likely say, you should just do that. We want to know what your plan actually is and what your measurable numbers are and how you're going to hit them. So I think like at one point, just hearkening back, we had increased post-secondary graduation retention by 1,000 at one point, which is a little bit more tactical and tangible to me. Or if it is increase the supply of workers by 10,000 a year or something that's more measurable. But I also understand the fact that this is a volunteer board and it will be primarily on the agencies and the departments that accomplish the targets. So I'm sorry, I'm kind of thinking aloud right now. I'm sorry. I'm seeing some head nodding, so maybe people can kind of understand where I'm trying to get to, but I don't feel like our goal should just be to develop the targets. I think the goal should be whatever the target is, if it is attract 5,000 new people a year. Sorry,
Right.
Allison?
I agree with you, Kendall. And I thought we actually had sort of robust conversation at the board meeting about sort of redesigning these goals so that really one of the goals is to re-engage adults in the workforce. So that had sort of some subcategories. I thought we were going to actually kind of redraft these so that they are more along the lines and more measurable, setting goals that were more measurable, folding in the healthcare workers, which is just one of the sectors we want to be working on. And if our goal is to re-engage adults in the workforce, let's say that's one of our goals, there are a bunch of sub things about adult CTE, adult ed. It just struck me that we were going to rework these a lot more than just reintroduce these as they were. Because I agree with you, Kendall. I think these are not necessarily measurable. These are more planning to do it, and rather than, and that certain people were going to take on the goals and rework them. Am I crazy in thinking?
That was
And
the champion comment, Allison. We were looking for people to champion each category so that they could
Yeah.
kind of own it and run it
So,
through.
and we got volunteers and I feel bad about this because I have not reached out to Tiffany or Ruth, because Tiffany and Ruth and I put on, you can't pilot new CT programs. We can't do that as a state board, but we can work with AOE to do that. And so I think Tiffany and Ruth and I were going to try and hone that goal and make it more of a goal that had measurable aspects to it. So I feel.
Yeah, and I think it's measurable aspects within our sphere of influence. So I think exactly what you're saying is what I was thinking is a lot of these are not within our sphere of influence. So if we were to write them the way that we, is being suggested, we couldn't do it, right? And so instead of it rewriting the goals in a way that I like what you're saying is this re-engage the adult workforce. Some of these are strategies underneath that bigger goal, which may have a number attached to it, right? And then these are strategies that go with it. I think that's what we're struggling with, is that these are, if we were to make these measurable goals with numbers, they would not be numbers we could hit as a board.
No, we don't have enough control over them. I mean, we
That's right.
can partner with other groups that have control over them, but we ourselves don't.
Right. Exactly.
So I think it's striking that balance. Like, that's what I'm recognizing is this board isn't going to then be attracting 1,000 more people a year, but what then are the strategies underneath it? Like you're saying, Tiffany, that the agencies and the departments are going out and taking on because it's our day jobs.
I think one thing to remember is when we first started doing the goals, we did have numbers and we were told not to have numbers because each category and each group would have to come up with numbers that were realistic. So we had numbers in there. We were told to take them out. We took them out, and that's where it stands now. And each group was going to have its own committee that was going to be able to establish the realistic goals and then drive to complete them. I think that's something that's missing in the conversation a little bit.
Yeah, no, that was my understanding too, because I kept going back and forth on it.
Right, but again, we're going to end up in the same circle. So if we go back and these committees make numbers, then they come back with them. We cannot do that on our own as a board.
Right.
So either the goals need to be rewritten to fit the board's sphere of influence.
So we could take on a couple of these, like Tiffany and Ruth and I could, for example, take on redoing how we approach piloting possibly new CTE disciplines, and come back to you with how we would work most successfully with AOE and our other partners on this.
One thing that I think we have to realize is that I think what we need to create are what are the strategies or what are the things that need to be done that flows from the state workforce board to everybody else. And, when we're talking about, say, right now we're talking about engaging more adults that might be out of the workforce and utilizing CTE. Well, adult CTE doesn't sit under AOE, it sits under nobody. And,
right, exactly.
That's a conversation that we have to have as a legislature this year of where does it sit? And now we have these workforce Pell Grants that are coming out. And how can we utilize those in the adult CTE world to get more people in, which will help the adult side of CTE, because right now we're putting $20,000 a year per CTE, and that's all we do for adult CTE. So we need to really think about what's the strategy there that we want to have.
Yeah, good point.
And how do we better integrate adult ed with adult CTE, and how do we make that more seamless? And I mean, the whole adult education,
That is a rabbit hole. I totally agree, but maybe not something that would be reflected in the goals per se. And I apologize. I wasn't trying to totally, I needed to understand the lens or the way we were approaching these goals in terms of if they were, we were staying away from numbers. Jay, thank you for clarifying that for a particular reason. Recognizing again, volunteer board. So I totally appreciate that. And to understand how you guys were approaching it, I apologize.
But what couldn't something that the State Workforce Development Board would say is that currently our adult CTE program is insufficient. There's no overarching there, that it doesn't sit under an umbrella, that these are things that need to be taken care of. And, you know, that puts some pressure on us as a legislature and on the administration and everybody else to let's get this done.
Yes, if re-engaging adults in the workforce is one of our goals, let's say, that one of the strategies is better organizing adult CTE and adult education so they work better together to serve and entice more adults to come back into the workforce.
And then how do we tie in this new, you know, workforce Pell Grant that's coming out, which could leverage dollars that the CTEs could get, but there's some, I'm hearing some, we don't know what the rules are on it yet, but we may have to have some conversations with our state colleges as well. So how do we incorporate both of those?
Yeah.
You know, so there's a lot of things that are brewing out there. And I think we want to be the ones that are saying to everybody else is look at this and start working on this.
So Mike, to follow up on that, one of the goals, if you're going to have a goal of re-engaging adults in the workforce, let's say, that one of the goals would be calling out the need to better align and better finance adult CTE and really figure out how to improve it. I mean, that is definitely a goal that is I think accomplishable in the next year or two.
Yes.
I mean, it's just such an orphan. I don't think it would be that hard to better manage it. I mean, to better align it. Particularly as we do all this realigning of everything else.
Is that currently on someone's plate as far as the other realignments are happening? I mean, I did meet with Rob Bonney, who I think is still head of Actia. And he was telling me that there are things being kicked around about CTE and realignment when it comes to matching up, but I don't know if that's someone's purview when it comes to the realignment of K through 12 and what everybody's looking at. Are they keeping in mind CTE, and especially I'm thinking adult CTE, which gets left behind a lot?
Well, that may be part of our challenge, is to keep it. I mean, yes.
Yeah, keep it there.
One of the proposals that you may have seen is realigning all the districts around the CTE centers. Well, then we should be, advocating hard for and vocally for including adult CTE in every one of those districts as they realign and as they reform, or, as they are basically created. They'll all be, it's all going to be new, old and new.
Yeah, this is a really good goal. I think we should keep this at the forefront, because if we lose sight of that, it won't matter how many great new programs we come up with to pilot. This seems like it's at the front. It's before that other goal.
So circling back, sorry, Drake or Sabina, was there still going to be additional work or subcommittees looking at these again? Was that what I heard was one of the next steps?
Well,
this is I think this is the next step of the conversation, right? And to Jay's point, and Jay, I don't want to speak for you, but I think what we heard in the last board meeting, I mean, so this list of goals was approved by the board. We can amend it and continue to hone, obviously, and make sure that these goals are like exactly what you all think is right for the board. But I do think the end of that conversation was, right, Jay, like identifying some folks to sort of own these pieces and then round it out and make it more
We voted and approved all these goals, right? So, and then it went to the State Workforce Development Board. And then during those conversations, for those that were there, we kind of talked it through, and we wanted people to drive these through and really kind of champion these all the way through the process. So I'm kind of surprised we've come back and now we're kind of starting over again, even though we all voted to approve these. So I don't, I'm concerned with going back to, as Kendall said, this is an option. These are volunteer board members going back to them and saying, oh, we're not doing this anymore. We're going to do this now and go a different direction. So if that's what we're doing, I highly suggest we do it one time, make sure this is right. So we're not making everybody on the volunteer board feel like we're kind of slapping them around and dragging them in different directions.
If I can offer a suggestion, would that be all right,
Yeah,
Jay? I think
please.
that this actually fits in with the conversation that we had at the last meeting, which is if these are, maybe not the exact way we want to word things or 100% perfect, these do still look like 4 buckets that are really important to the work of the board, right? Getting more workers into key sectors. What is it? Senator Clarkson, you said re-engaging adults in the workforce. That is more of like an adult ed CTE focused goal, supporting, more businesses and businesses to expand, and then keeping more post-secondary graduates here. And perhaps what we could do between now and even the next executive committee meeting is have smaller groups kind of take, like, where, as Senator Clarkson mentioned, maybe you, Senator, work on number 2, and then sort of figure out how there can be some wordsmithing done or some alignment of like goal with a couple of strategies. So it's not, we're not throwing it out, but continuing to hone and refine within the buckets that the board did approve at the September meeting. And then the goal can be, by the next November full board meeting to have like sort of the next phase of this document ready.
Drake, that's a good idea. And I apologize because we sort of took, the 3 of us, I think, sort of took that on, and Ruth wasn't in the room. So Tiffany and I just sort of engaged her because, when you're not there, it gets dangerous. You get included and stuff. So I would love to come back with that goal of re-engaging adults in the workforce, which is, I think, a goal, and then come up with some of the strategies we would use and we can work with Jay and Kendall and Ruth, and maybe the 5 of us could meet and come up with a sort of a better goal, and then with very specific strategies. And I thought, Jay, that it wasn't undermining approving the sort of general direction of these goals, but just we need to write them better as goals and strategies. And I thought that we had taken on for the key sectors, getting rid of the healthcare committee and really identifying that the one goal would be identify, let's say for a biennium, for 2 years, identify 5 key sectors that we were really going to focus on and get the legislature to focus on. And that's what would help us, the legislature, if the work board and Sabina and Drake coming to us and saying, these are the 5 sectors that are really our top priorities for these reasons, and these are the strategies we're hoping to employ to really jumpstart these sectors. We're working with AOE, we're working with, whoever we're working with, all the state colleges and universities, whatever the strategy is, and work with the legislature to really empower those 5 sectors in substantive ways. Just to have a healthcare committee, yeah, that's one of our sectors, but man, we have a lot of other sectors. So I think it would be great if the State Workforce Board actually did the work of identifying the 5 sectors they thought, with their knowledge of the state, what are those 5 sectors and what are we doing to really help empower them?
That's exactly what we talked about, Senator Clarkson. That's exactly it. And I think we're all kind of hoping Jill was going to be able to be a part of that. She's moving into a different role. So,
Right.
We need someone to champion that through. I think, that was in the middle of that conversation. The mayor of Rutland was a part of that, if you recall. And we were talking about,
Mike
he was great.
keen on that.
Yeah. And so I think the big thing was, I don't think people really realized, what the need was for the medical world, in particular in the nursing, right? It was like in the thousands, and I think that kind of floored
Yeah.
everybody. But the point of that really is that I don't think everybody's. I think we're all saying kind of a little bit of the same thing here in the fact that someone has to champion these through, whether it's a committee, particular person leading a committee, whatever it might be. They all have to be. I think what we have to be really careful of is coming up with arbitrary numbers. And I agreed with when that was originally discussed of taking them out to some degree and having the groups work on realistic numbers, especially in partnership with other departments that are kind of more in line with that, right? So anyway, I'm talking enough. Chris, your hand's been up for a long time.
Yeah, no, I agree. My understanding, again, we probably have very similar but not quite coordinated understandings, was that this was to drive the experts and folks that have an interest in serving on these committees to really hone in on the goals and the targets. So, and I feel much more comfortable, like from a committee level, having them nail that down. Like, so for example, Senator Clarkson has raised, and Tiffany raised some very good points. Nail that down in the committee, and then we can use that, improve it, and move it forward.
And Lindsay Curley took on number 3 because it would be great. I mean, and in our talk, we talked about all the areas that we're already investing in and how can we better coordinate all these training programs and all the ways we are supporting business expansion and relocation. What are all the ways we're currently doing it, and what still needs to be done? What do we still need to do? And Lindsay taking that on, so maybe Lindsay could do with some partners, and you could give her this as a goal for our next executive meeting or our next board meeting. Well, we have an executive committee first. Maybe see if she could further hone that, identify what we're currently doing and what we still could be doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely does.
Because Lindsay did put her hand up and say she'd like to do that.
Yeah, she did.
And I think that there are a bunch of people who'd like to work with her. I bet Tim Tierney, that aren't necessarily on the board, but Tim Tierney could help with that. And Jay, I mean, we have so many people who know so many of these programs that are currently exist and are working well.
Okay. So I guess what the takeaway from this is, go back and have people kind of take ownership of these and then build out committees.
Yeah, and come back at the November. Yeah. I think let's give them all a very specific deadline of the November, whatever
18.
it is.
18.
Yeah.
No, we have an executive committee before
the executive committee, yeah.
First week.
On the 3rd.
Yeah.
Come back to us maybe on the 3rd with at least a rough idea of what they would want to state the goal to be and what the strategies would be. And the 5 key sectors, who would be good? Who wants to work on that? If Jill, I bet Jill's available at least to help, maybe not to spearhead. Who would be good to spearhead that?
It seems like Jay would be a good one.
Kendall?
I see Kendall's hand.
I see Kendall's hand.
Kendall, are you volunteering yourself?
I am. I'm volunteering.
And I think we should also engage Matt Barowitz has a lot of great data
Exactly.
here.
That's why I'm
agree.
volunteering.
Yeah,
is
so
our
I can-
workforce division and Matt already have a lot of ideas. So
Yeah.
Kendall,
provide
that's why
support
you're
too.
the commissioner.
that's fine.
You know who else would be great on this is Lauren Hibbert or somebody from the Office of Professional Regulation at the Secretary of State's office.
Agreed. Can reach out to Lauren.
Yeah, because one of the pieces in this as a strategy is our licensure program and opening up our licensure.
It's already so open. I don't know how we could possibly open it more. We just got to promote it better.
Yeah, but you and I know
Agreed.
what we're talking. I mean,
I do.
that's
I do know
a
what you're talking
piece.
about. Yes.
Oh, Kendall, you're divine. So that is Kendall and partners. I mean, anyway, if Lauren can't I can't remember the name of the new guy who's running it. Lauren is just still so much my go-to person there. Anyway, Mike, do you remember the name of the chap who's running OPR now?
I don't.
I'll
Oh,
reach
I
out
can-
to I'll reach out to Lauren and she'll be there and she'll bring
Perfect.
their new director.
Of
Fine.
course, of course, of course. I'm Googling who it is.
Hey,
Let's-
Kendall, while
let's-
she's Googling, if you need help in terms of once the 5 sectors, I think we pretty much know what they are, but just to confirm what the 5 sectors are, if you need help in terms of recruitment for the committee, I have some ideas.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Representative Marcotte, did you want to say something?
Yeah, let's also remember that, you know, Sabina, you haven't been in your role this long, for too long. And one of the pieces that we need from your office is the inventory of everything that's going on out there concerning workforce, who's doing what. And it's so I'm afraid that we're trying to get ahead of ourselves before we even know everything that's going on out there. So I just caution us I know we all want to get going and want things to happen yesterday, but we need to understand what's out there before we can move forward.
Yeah. I will
Yeah.
say that we do have a humongous Excel spreadsheet right now that we've gotten updated by our state colleagues and different partners from the 2022 list, I believe. We're also talking with folks at Advanced Vermont to see if there might be a way to collaborate with them with their credentialing, database. So there is work going on behind the scene. But I will also say and warn you that no, we have to get it into a pretty format, so that people can use it like it is on Advanced Vermont. So, because the spreadsheet isn't going to do it, everybody will poke their eyes out over the spreadsheet. So that's going to take some time.
It's a lot of work that
yeah.
we've given you. And
Yeah.
so
But we're behind the scenes, that it is progressing. It's not out there yet, so to speak.
We have every confidence it will be, but it's Kevin Rushing. Kevin Rushing is the new director of the Office of Professional Regulation. I remember that now.
Okay, so we have some homework to do. I'm getting
But that's
people-
what's so great
Mhm.
about these regular executive committee meetings,
Yes.
because I think that's terrific, because we had such a good conversation in Rutland, and I think this is a great way to kind of hone it and get it on track. So this is good.
I don't think
wonder, do
we
want
got
it?
to
Oh, sorry,
number
go ahead, Tiffany.
4 with when we were talking about the champions, and it was really shocking to me to be asked to talk about number 4 in the last meeting, because number 4 was never my idea. So I don't know who
So-
originally wanted this piece, but I think that Scott Giles is a better, I do like the focus that I could have with number 2 with the crew we've put together there. And I also really need to have a leading focus on Workforce Pell. So I think if we can, I think Scott would be great either to champion number 4, or if you want to ask for some other people that want, I would be happy to sit on a committee like that, but it's not a CCV. We're not talking about CCV when we're talking about number 4. Those are Vermonters. They already are Vermonters. So I think as long as we have some people sitting on that from UVM and some other places, I think that will be more important to have me sitting and working on the other 2.
I agree. And
yeah, the
Scott,
Office of Engagement.
yeah. And Scott will be really seriously important in that role.
Yep.
Yeah, when we send out materials, because there are other folks that aren't able to join us today, so we can communicate that like this is what the executive committee has decided to do, and invite other members of the executive committee to, choose their adventure on which goal they want to spend some time on. Because I think this is, I also just want to say, like, these goals were framed this way for a reason, right? Because it's hard for one group to sort of figure it all out in one go or in a series of meetings. So I think this is exactly where the conversation needs to be. And I think this is a really good plan moving forward.
who's currently running the UVM Office of Engagement?
don't
I
know,
will
but I
Google
think
it.
it touched base with Wendy.
Yeah.
Koenig.
Oh, Wendy will know.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the operational goal, is that all the work that we were talking about earlier about the WIOA and the one stop, and I mean all the internal stuff that we need to be having a goal of making it as good as possible?
The operational goal is really our federal mandated requirements for the State Workforce Development Board. That, you know, that's why every state has a state workforce development board, is to be the ones who are responsible for ensuring that grant monies are being spent correctly.
Right.
And et cetera, et cetera. And now that workload, I don't want to say is going to, but there are a number of priorities under Workforce Pell that fall under the State Workforce Development Board's auspices. So, and I think a smaller subcommittee or committee will be very helpful because they can really focus in on this without, and then come back to both the executive committee and the full board and say, here's, excuse me, here's where it's at. This is what we, you know, this is how it's being run, yay or nay, and let the board and the other executive committee members ask the questions, and it'll streamline it so that, you know, as we know, the former boards got bogged down into the federal requirements, which frustrated people.
So Brian,
maybe-
it doesn't have to be a committee, but I would like to see that there'd be something as a follow-up for the one stop. The group could be the same group we've had before, but just making sure, because I know we were going to check in with them in 6 months. I just want to make sure in the
Yes.
meantime. Okay.
That will be part of this operational goal, because the one-stop
Perfect.
operations fall under this as well, because that's part of WIOA mandates.
Exactly. Yep.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Sorry if that wasn't clear. Yep.
And the person I think running the Office of Engagement is Christopher Kaliba. Is that right? Kaliba?
Yep.
And that would be great if Scott and Christopher could work together, because I think that would be a very interesting start of a team.
Yeah. And I do know from several meetings with the UVM folks that they're trying to, my choice of words, not theirs, pilot programs that will help retain graduates.
Housing would help. More money, housing.
Yeah.
Romance. Tickets to the Flint. I mean, quality of life was mentioned so many times when we talk to young people about why they stay, that, you know, get creative about it.
Yeah.
What we offer them, because we can never offer them enough money. But people tend to stay where they intern. I mean, look at all those the success of the Northeastern internship program. I mean, people tend to stay where they get rooted and they enjoy the environment and they enjoy the work and the colleagues, and people are very loyal.
Generally.
Well, sometimes it's a good thing, and
Yeah.
at the moment, a little concerning.
Okay. Are we okay to move on to the next topic? Yeah. Okay.
I think this is good, Jay. I think this is, we've got people for each one of them, I think.
Whether they know it or not, right?
Well, I think they actually know it, except for Ruth. Poor
Right,
Ruth
Ruth.
and Scott
Yeah.
Giles.
Yeah.
But Lindsay kind of knows it because she did volunteer.
She put her hand up. She did. Yeah. Okay.
So you're just following up on the offer.
Okay. All right, good. All right, so let's move to the next topic. Reviewing the draft of legislative reports on development of data trust for Act 146. Sabina, you gonna handle that?
Was going to, do you need me to put that up on the screen?
Do people want to see it on the screen? I think it doesn't matter. Okay, Kendall's saying no, so I'll go with Kendall. She's like right in the center of my screen.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing if you don't mind. There we go. So as you all know, we have a draft of this legislative report on the development of a data trust. It's approximately 12 pages, and the main thing to know is there's still so many unanswered questions and things that we need to figure out. What is it that we really hope to accomplish out of this? And I know, generally speaking, we need data to make decisions. We all want data to make decisions, but when you start getting into it, it's such an expensive and time-consuming, resource-rich proposition that we should try hard to know what it is we're trying to accomplish. We did a fair amount of research with multi-state collaborative data trusts, in particular PSEO, which stands for Post-Secondary Employment Opportunities. PSEO Coalition. They have 35 states, over 1,000 institutions. They've been doing this with the Census Bureau, and they have unbelievably great data, and it would be free to us basically. And it might be a great place for us to start and build and see if it looks like what we want. And then if it's like, no, it doesn't answer that question, then we've had time to figure out what it is that we do want to have answered. But in the meantime, we would have data coming in. The one holdup is that for us to participate either in PSEO or the other one are these Coleridge Initiative. And they do regional multi-state collaboratives, data collaboratives. Both of them, we would need to have our state institutions participate and share their data. Now, we're already in conversations with some of our institutions on the PSEO front, and they seem very willing to move forward with that, which would be cool. But we'll come in and we'll give you more information, and we can hear from PSEO. But generally speaking, with the office, with Drake and I, we had a good conversation with some other states as well on how they're doing it. If we want to stand up our own standalone data trust, we would ask the legislature for a consultant to help us do that planning work and build the trust tool. And that information is in the data trust report, as you probably saw. But the big takeaway on this report for the legislature is, yes, we want data. Data is needed, but we're at a place where so many things are up in the air, for lack of a better way of putting it, financially and appropriation wise, that and we could get started much more quickly with a PSEO or a Coleridge and see how it works for us while we continue to answer questions and the types of information that you're looking for. So that's, if you didn't have a chance to read the report, I basically just gave you the executive summary. But Chris, did you want to say something?
Yeah, is there a cost associated with, I know there's the data piece to collaborate with the PSEO. Is there a cost associated with being in the group, or? My
understanding from Matt is there is not.
Okay.
Yeah, because I've been having conversations with Matt Berwitz and also Josiah Raish at ADS. And they both contributed to this report, just so you know that as well. And also our own Vermont Department of Labor folks with the WIOA information in our programs, they contributed to the report as well. So
So I think you've got Kendall and Mike and I were pretty involved with this as part of our SOCWED work, because this
Yep.
came out of our SOCWED work.
Yep, Model
And-
3, the whole bit.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you have the three of us who I think have a notion of what we were hoping for. Mike and Kendall can, but I think that this sounds interesting. I think I was hoping, and I may just be misinformed on this, but I was sort of hoping that we would have a Vermont, and it's great to have other states because that makes it even more useful, but one place that is the repository for our data so that we can go to, so that any committee or any department or agency could say, not just go to Matt Perowitz for our data, but go to one repository that has all the data on a whole aspect of things. It's part of the de-siloing that we need to do in terms of understanding our impacts on each other.
Yep.
And as we explore one thing and what we might do, what its impact on another thing, and the data that unites them and informs them. So for me, while I know it's great to have other states, because we're always, so let's say you're in a heated debate about how much cheaper it is to live in New Hampshire, not. That data of New Hampshire taxes and New Hampshire costs would be great to have at hand, and you could just easily go to those. But Kendall and Mike, am I barking up the wrong tree?
I think maybe I want to redirect this, or again, Sabina or Drake, jump in if I have this wrong. So I don't think Sabina and Drake is saying we're going to have anything about New Hampshire or Maine's data. They have in the report for states that have done this, what it cost and what it took them to stand up. And so, for example, when Maine did something similar, and again, Sabina or Drake, like, jump in if I have this number wrong, my understanding is it cost them like $10 million, and
that was very
many
expensive
a year. Yeah. So I think
5+
years. Yeah. So
and they're still working on it. They're still at the warehouse stage.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think what Sabina and Drake were saying was there are some anecdotes about other states' experiences doing this, not necessarily that we would build something where we access their data. And so knowing that doing something like this from other states has been millions of dollars in a multi-year project, what are some of the more bite-sized pieces that we could potentially be doing now in the interim as low-hanging fruit to move us that direction? My guess, you guys tell me, maybe not, like, that the legislature may not allocate $10 million and want to start a multi-year IT project this year. Who knows?
You don't think?
So what are some things we can do that are free or cheaper to keep us moving and keeping the momentum going as options? That was kind of my takeaway and how I was thinking about how the report was framed, but I
think that's
ultimately
how the report is framed. I just was, of course, thinking about the $10 million.
The other part of this that's I personally find very cool is that it will track your Vermont students. You'll know whether in year 2026, making it up, where you'll have a percentage that stayed in state for their education. You'll know how many left. You'll know what they studied. You'll know whether they came back. You'll know what their salary, the longitudinal salary is for over 10 years. There's a lot of benefits to it right now. And to your point, it's bite-sized for us right now. And if there's things we feel are missing, it gives us an opportunity to start to look into other ways to fill in the gaps, if you will.
It's a great start.
And it feels doable in our current life situation with funding and et cetera.
Well, yeah.
I'm sorry, I keep cutting you off, Drake.
I think I'm cutting you off or muting myself before I do.
Go ahead.
So all of that, yes. And I think in the process of starting to draft this report, it has also become really clear to us that there is already a lot happening across state government to start to de-silo and knit together different data sets. So there's a section in the draft, if folks haven't had a chance to review it yet, which makes sense because it's very long, that talks about, I know, but Sabina, and yes, we've talked about trying to keep it short, but there's work that's happening at the Agency of Digital Services to create, I think the term is data lakes, but to really start to pull together data from different agencies and departments and put it into places virtually where I'm going to sound kind of like an idiot if I try to describe this, but ways to de-silo different data sets that I think are like really important building blocks to that future outcome, Senator Clarkson, that you're mentioning, of wanting, to be able to look at things more comprehensively and more holistically. So there's a lot of different sort of like time horizons and scopes of work in the report, which, because it's really about like what are the options for the legislature to consider, and some of the potential options like the PSEO coalition are great because it's data that already exists. It's not a cost to us. And it would, that initiative in particular would really combine, a lot of like our wage data and census data with post-secondary data. So it would require, our post-secondary institutions to participate, but that's already a connection that would, I think, pay dividends for us and can continue to have the other conversations about, do we want something that's more, Vermontified in the future? But that's sort of like laying all the different options on the table.
Well, and I think it'll also give us some good examples of how that data could be used and how it's being used in other states that can help inform us on the best use of the data. I think it's important. So why start with a blank piece of paper, right?
Oh, why reinvent the wheel? Look at other people's wheels and see which one you works the best.
Works on our car, right?
And I think some of the pieces that we're trying to get to at some point is all the other nonprofits that are out there doing similar work, to see what their return on investment is, and to make sure that we're not duplicating efforts around the state and wasting money, right? So, and I think we want to understand what's working and what's not, and we shouldn't be funding things that aren't working and investing those dollars into things that are working.
A lot of head shaking, yes.
And I'm all for getting started the way that Sabina and Drake are proposing. I think it's a great start, and the price tag is perfect.
I agree.
The price tag is, the price tag is great. And we'll see. I mean, you're right. It's a great opportunity for us to see what's there.
Okay, great. We were planning on, we can discuss this briefly again at the November executive committee, but the idea would be to let the full board see it at the November 18th and have an opportunity to weigh in and vote on it, et cetera. And then before we, submit it to the legislature by December 15. So if, in the next, 6 weeks or something, 4 weeks, excuse me, you read something and you can just shoot us an email and say, hey, could we talk more about section 5 on page 6?
So, and also maybe we could do a live example of how we access it and a question we could pose and how it could be answered through the data sets available to us through this, whichever one you choose.
Yeah. I know Matt and we've had a number of conversations about this, and he really likes PSEO. So that, first of all, because the size is so much bigger, you get to see almost the entire country versus, your neighboring states, your region. So maybe that's a great idea to have him help us show you how it works, the dashboard works and everything. Yep.
I think that would be helpful.
Yes, very much.
Because isn't it meant to be a sort of working opportunity for us?
Yes. Yes. And you literally can go onto their dashboard and start messing around with it. You could put in one of the participating states right now, Georgia, I'm making it up, this field, that, and these schools, and get good information back. Okay. That's a great suggestion. Is that anybody else, or shall we move on?
Should we move on?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Up next is the workforce Pell program.
We don't have a whole lot more to offer yet. Maybe Kendall, you might know something from the Department of Labor perspective, but or maybe Tiffany, you have a little more information, but just the first, handout, so to speak, and what the responsibilities of the board are going to be.
I can cover, at a high level, I don't know if the board has already heard this or not. Sabina, have you all discussed workforce Pell at all? And have you all given the board kind of a rundown of what it is? And
No,
okay.
we did not end up doing that at the last meeting, right?
So Workforce Pell is a new program that has been passed by Congress. It is not tied up in the current shutdown or negotiations. And what its intent is to open up an existing program called Pell Grants that are traditionally used, and Tiffany, help me with the finer points of Pell Grants, for higher education affordability funding. What this does would open up those, I'm saying grants, but that funding stream to be used outside of your traditional college experience, although they do have to be used at accredited institutions, which are still colleges essentially, but can be for short-term programming. So CCV would be an example, and Tiffany can weigh in, of many programs where a workforce Pell Grant might be useful. And how these were passed is there's a lot of latitude at the state level for the state and governors and boards to weigh in on how they are utilized and how we decide to form them and what guardrails we put on. So for example, if the governor is able to weigh in directly and the board has to certify, I'm trying to dust off this file in my brain from the last time we talked about it. The board has to certify, I believe, the direction essentially the governor or the state wants to go. So if we were saying, I'm just making this up, we really want to target these towards those sectors. So if we decide these are the 5 priority sectors and we want to allow Pell Grants for workforce training and education programs specifically in these 5 areas, would be one simplistic way to think about it. Why this isn't moving super quick is we need more guidance from the federal government to really be able to form our programs, and that guidance is not going to come out until November at some point. So once that is released in about a month, we'll have more to go off of in terms of understanding exactly where the guardrails are, what's going to be allowable, what's not, to start standing up our own state level version of this. I did hear in passing, Tiffany, I don't know if you know this as well, or if I heard it from you or who, but these might not be huge money though. So this could be a lot of work for very little, essentially grant scholarship funds of anywhere from, I think, $150 per person up to maybe $5,000. Do not quote me on that. Do not take that as definitive, but I heard it was a pretty low scale in terms of, at the end of the day, how much each recipient could receive. Even though we will go through the work of standing up the opportunity. So I'm sorry, it's since we don't have guidance. I learned about it like a month ago, and then I put it away until there's more guidance. So I apologize if this is pretty high level and not clear. Chris, if you've been following, or questions?
No, yeah, more of a question. Is this something that with Congress, there's thinking it would be block grants, or these are grants that you'd have to apply for that money based off programs?
I think it'd be an entitlement.
Okay.
I think
that's right.
And Sabina, I know that we were supposed to have Ryan this last time. He had an unfortunate Nerf gun incident. It sounds hilarious, except for the fact that he ended up seriously not being able to travel. But we can put him on. I did give him the next date. I know we haven't come up yet with that agenda. I gave him that next date. He does have a really great presentation ready to go on giving the basics of Pell so people understand what we're even basing Workforce Pell on. So I think that'll be a really important meeting for the board to attend and understand where we're headed. And we may not get guidance by the end of this year either, just to be honest. We're not sure. We're supposed to. That doesn't mean we will. And we may not have enough rulemaking to go forward. But I think, Kendall's right. We're going to do a lot of work for probably very little money, but it will set the stage for short-term programs being eligible for Pell. And so we're going to want to put things forward. And I think that the working group that we put together, the task force that we put together, will be really vital in us figuring out next steps. I don't want us to, I'm very against us coming up with a focus of a few things, because we don't know what people will put forward. And it could be a very small number of programs that people are even able, there's a lot of eligibility requirements around ROI and other pieces that will make it difficult for any of the institutions to put things forward. So I think what we'll have to do is be open to what the colleges may provide in programming that is fitting of the guidance.
Yeah, the ROI stuff's going to be complicated.
Yeah, and rural states are really up against it. So we have been advocating on behalf of rural states, and we did meet with Senator Sanders' office and advocated there as well, and tried to help them understand where we're coming from when it comes to the ROI requirement, especially, and some other pieces where rural states are flip-flopped, unfortunately, in income versus the cost of a program. So we are advocating in that way, and hopefully we'll see something in the rulemaking that allows states to have more of a say than not. But we'll see as it goes forward. We're still hoping for guidance, but we may not get it.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think we should have every workforce Pell recipient tied in some productive way to one of the many people who are going to save millions of dollars in taxes in this tax cut. $150. That's a joke. Kendall, that is
I have questions. I have lots of questions. Kendall, I know you don't have an answer, so there's not clarity until, next month, but do you not find out how much you get until after you do all the work? Are there directions you can go?
So if you're eligible, you will get it. So it's not like each state gets 5 million or 10 million and 3 million. It's whoever is eligible gets it, and the federal government reimburses you that cost essentially as an entitlement program.
But I mean, I guess my question is more like, would you hope for 5,000 and get $150? Like, how does that work? I just don't,
You mean
we
may have a lot of really disappointed people, is my concern.
Because people want to know what the possibility is before they apply for it. So if
that's what we would define. Well, so here's what we need for the guidance from the federal government is around eligibility. And then we will craft a program based on what we get for eligibility and where the guardrails are. And then people can make the decision to apply or not. And because it's an entitlement, it doesn't matter if only 3 Vermonters apply or all 640,000 of us apply and are found eligible. The federal government would have to pay for that.
I can see so many traps in this. So many traps. Like, people find out it's $150. And again, no one's holding you to these numbers, Kendall.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure that you were, this is what you heard. But
yes.
And we have like 3 people apply, and then the federal government's like, oh God, Vermont doesn't even care about this. We're not going to do this. Like you can just see all of these potential traps with this when you're doing 5 hours of work for, a full tank of gas, essentially at $150, right? Like, oh man, this is interesting.
Well, and
waiting
then, of course,
for guidance.
Well, and then guidance, schmeidens. I mean, the whims of the administration means it could disappear tomorrow.
They want to rename them Trump grants, so I don't think it's going to disappear.
Oh my God, gag me with a fork.
Can it go from 150 to like 500? I'm all in. I don't care what they call it.
I think it depends on your socioeconomic status. So like how much you get will depend on your socioeconomic status. So if you're already a high earner, you might only qualify for 150. But if you are making no money, you could get up to 5,000.
That's right. Yeah. As a single mom of 4 sons who are all in college at the same time, we applied for Pell Grants. And it's based on where the institution you choose and the costs there and, my income and whatever the kids might have earned. So it's all socioeconomic driven.
Right.
Right.
So what I'm
Well,
saying it's a lot of
and
work.
how
I'm saying it's a
much-
lot of work for us to develop
That's
the
what I mean. Yeah.
program
No,
Yeah.
understood. That's what I mean.
when it
Yeah.
may not be high money
Yeah.
to Vermonters at the end of the day. I mean, I don't actually, to be fair, I might sound like a huge elitist saying $150 is not meaningful. That could be very impactful to
It's
somebody,
meaningful,
to be
yeah.
fair. So I just want to check myself
Yeah.
too in my biases.
And it also depends on how much money is available that year.
Mhm.
So like 1 year, your kid could get 2,000, I'm making it up, and the next year, there's not as much grant money available, so they might only get 500. And your situation hasn't changed at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and for
We just
reference,
don't know.
Kendall, I don't think you're elitist at all in saying that. I coach hundreds of kids a year, and I can tell you that $150 doesn't go far anymore, no matter what their standing is, right? It just doesn't. Anyway, we don't have to dwell on that. So
Not even at Shaw's or Hannaford's doesn't go far. Right.
yeah.
It still goes far in a candy shop.
Well, it depends on which one you go to, because the one on Nantucket, right, Sabina, is like incredibly expensive. Doesn't go
Well,
very far
forget
at all.
Nantucket. Just getting there uses up the $150.
You can say that
Exactly.
again.
Exactly.
Okay,
Uh,
are we?
More to
are we-
come on that. And then just the last thing I'll let you know about is that, as you are aware, our MOU with our required partners under WIOA expired on June 30th. Internally, we are working with our core partners, which includes education, Agency of Education, AHS, and oh my gosh, I'm forgetting right now. I'm going blank. VDOL, obviously. And we're going to be meeting with our core partners first this week, start going over the MOU and our suggested updates, which are not significant really. And then, go out to the rest of the required partners and have a big meeting and fill everybody in. I would love to tell you it's all going to be taken care of by December 31st. That's my hope.
Sabina, we have confidence that it will be.
That's my hope. Yeah.
No shoe drops.
You and Drake are capable of almost anything.
Well, thank you. Anyway, so those were my two updates from the office. Drake, did you want to add anything?
Oh, we're working on a newsletter that we're going to send out, like a monthly board newsletter. So we'll share that with y'all by the end of the month, I hope, to use Sabina's words. But want to have ways for board members and partners to hear about all the good work that's happening.
Well,
That's all I got.
Tiffany and I are going to get Ruth and we're going to start work, right, Tiffany?
That's
And,
right.
Jay's going to ask Lindsay. We have all these great to-dos. I just have to say, this is just exciting to have an executive committee of the State Workforce Development Board that's actually meeting on a regular basis and accomplishing things. And that's great. Congratulations.
Yeah.
All of us.
Yes.
I mean, maybe I just wasn't
Keep it
on the
going.
executive committee before and I didn't know how often they met, but this is good.
Thank you. Yeah, it is good.
It is good. All right. Any
Have
other
you
topics?
sent, I
Oh,
just
go
want
ahead,
to make
sorry.
sure that we're sending out a calendar invite for November, as that's going to get here really fast. I only have a hold that I put on. Has something gone out from the board
For the full board or
for the full board
executive
meeting? For the full board meeting.
Okay, I will take care of that this afternoon before the day is over.
Great. And if you, and Ryan is on board for that, Sabina, if you'd like. for
Okay,
him
and
to-
it will be held in Waterbury in the Steel Community Room at the municipal offices in Waterbury. Very lovely meeting room.
I have it from 9 to 1. Is that still correct?
To 11,
What?
9 until 11.
Oh,
We have the room from 8 until noon so that we can set up and break down so we don't get charged.
so it's in Waterbury?
Waterbury at the municipal offices right on Main Street. And it's part of where the new library is, and it's called the Steel Community Room, but you'll see all of it in the updated invite.
Right.
That's where Sustainable Jobs Funds has all of their most of their meetings, so I stole the idea.
Listen, steal as much as you can from Ellen. She's
Yeah.
full of great ideas and
Yeah.
great. She sleuthed everything.
Yeah.
Why
So-
reinvent the wheel? Just steal
Right.
Ellen's ideas.
And Jay can walk too.
That's right. Thank God.
Right. Okay. But first we have our report back on November 3rd. So Tiffany, I guess we need to get to work.
And if
Yeah.
anyone needs, support in getting meetings set up or note taking or doing anything to support this work on the goals, just let us know. We can
Yeah.
support
Thank you,
you.
Drake. Yeah.
And Drake, will you share, maybe it's on your email and I just didn't notice it. Do you have your cell phone on your email tag?
I believe,
Oh, you did.
let me,
Oh, you
Yeah, I
may.
saw
I just,
it.
yeah, it's there.
okay, great.
So you know how to reach me in multiple ways.
We know how to reach you. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
So we get a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Chris. All right, everybody. Thank you all very much.
Jay,
Thank you.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Sabina, Drake.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye. I'm writing down who made motions. There we go.